We talking that money talk again today. Feeling good, feeling great. Feeling great, feeling good. How are you? Welcome into Timeline T. I'm your host, D. Sam D, aka Sanders May Jr. Goji Berry T. Jonathan Taylor, Jim Irsay, the NFL's disrespect for the running back position continues. We'll definitely dive into that. Great article put out on The Athletic. We will highlight the writer, give him his props. We have some video of Jonathan Taylor today on site, on the field, but not participating. Jim Irsay has a penchant for saying the loud thing or the quiet thing out loud. He's speaking not only what I feel is his truth, but a lot of other NFL owners and for sure NFL executives' truth. And he keeps getting away with it. He keeps invoking the current NFL CBA and cites how hard they had to work on it. Both sides compromised, which we all know is a complete joke. Ain't no way both sides compromise when the players will never get fully guaranteed money and the owners continue to reap the revenue off of generating $25 billion. But you know, it's a cute little quote to have out there floating for the crowd that seemingly hates players but love owners. Make of that what you will. Okay. Where should we begin? Where shall we begin? There's so much to tap into, but let's see if we can figure this out. Let's go ahead and see where we can pull this up. Okay, let's close that window. We don't want to have too many tabs open. All right, so we are here today specifically. Bring the bed down, let's go to the screen. We're here because of this. Jonathan Taylor, his reaction, right? So we'll go ahead and bring that up. Jonathan Taylor's reaction: never had a back pain. Now, we will forgive the grammar and the tense used here, but the bottom line is never had, he didn't need the A there, never had back pain. 2, never reported back pain. Not sure who quote sources are, but find new ones. Now, where is he coming from with all of that? Well, source close to ESPN, Jonathan Taylor reported to training camp complaining of back pain that was deemed to be from a pre-existing issue. The team is now considering placing him on the non-football injury list, which could result in his not being paid for the regular season. It's all a posturing play, okay? It's all a posturing play. So we continue on. I got Ari. If this happens, you know, he's basically recapping the same thing that we just got from Stephen Holder, but the move has not been made yet, but the Colts continue to fight this one out publicly. If Taylor didn't play this season, his contract would just toll to 2024. They would have the right to not pay him anything in 2023. So in essence, Jonathan Taylor's trying to get a bag. He has seen what has happened to other running backs. He has seen what has happened to the trifecta of Tony Pollard, Josh Jacobs, and Saquon Barkley. He's not trying to be lumped into that. He's trying to get his bread right now. And the Colts, who were talking favorably about giving Jonathan Taylor the bag earlier this year, January, February. But then as the months have gone on, their attitude has shifted. Now, whether they noticed the landscape, the fact that Zeke still don't have a job, Dalvin Cook doesn't have a job, Saquon got all the running backs on a Zoom and spun the block and only came back to work just for some $900K in incentives. And I have more clarity about the Saquon deal there was a lot of confusion as about to the mention of the $2 million bonus for Saquon Barkley. There was talks that it was included in the 10.1 that he was supposed to get. Then it was talk that, oh, no, this is an extra. What it is of the 10.1, 2 million of which was given up front as a signing bonus. So he's still going to make that 10.1 that he would have gotten with the tag. The only addition is the fact that he has a bunch of team-laden, team-first incentives up to $900,000. So if he hits every single incentive, he can make, you did the math, 10.1 plus 900, he can make 11 mil in total, which would be more than what he would have gotten on the franchise tag. The franchise tag was 10.8. So he got running backs on the Zoom. They all aired out, assumingly, their dirty laundry. They all discussed, the role agents play, front offices, the CBA. And after that Zoom, we got Jonathan Taylor saying, trade me. But Saquon's like, oh no, I'll come back. Just add on a little 900K and I'll just come back. I don't know what I was thinking, getting all these dudes on the Zoom. I can't do it. So there you have it. 900K for Saquon. They gave him 2 mil of the 10.1 mil up front as a signing bonus, and he signed and showed up to camp, and we're going to act like that never happened. Whereas Jonathan Taylor gets off that Zoom, and he's like, you know what? I'm him. I don't want to have to wait 2-3 years to get my bag, and then at that point, it could still be held up thanks to this franchise tag. I kind of want my money now. And if you're not going to give me my money, then trade me. And that's where we're at now, where if this is true, where he had this alleged back injury, now he is, again, refuting it. Never had a back pain. That means never had back pain, never reported back pain. But if the Colts can find the evidence to show that there was some sort of injury, a non-football injury that happened away from the team, because of the CBA and everything that goes in it, yes, he does not have to get paid. And we just spin the block on this in 2024. Now, understand he's saying never had a back pain, never reported back pain. We have video of Jonathan Taylor walking around today. Now, I'm not going to say what I think until y'all see this video. This is Jonathan Taylor. Watch him walking. Seems to be very ginger steps, gingerly walking. The gait didn't look as smooth as you would think. I'm not saying it's a back injury. I'm not saying what it is, but that don't look like a smooth walk. He has not taken one snap in training camp. Yet here we are with the gait that he has. So y'all let me know on the replay what y'all think of this, okay? The walking that we're seeing from Jonathan Taylor, that looked like a smooth step to you? Is he hiding something? Does Jim Irsay, for one of the rare times, is he in the right here for standing 10 toes down, not trying to negotiate with someone who tried to sneak in with an injury, but now is saying, give me my money? But Jonathan Taylor is saying, no back pain, never reported back pain. This is only going to get deeper as this goes along. There's a lot to unearth here. There's a lot that's happening. Okay? So James Boyd, who broke this all down with the Athletic, so we're going to give him his props. James Boyd has been all over this for the Athletic. He's been killing shit. I have a whole timeline that he broke down. I'm going to pull that up here, and we're going to go bar for bar through this timeline. Okay? The Colts wouldn't have to pay Jonathan Taylor, basically throwing through the same thing. So the Colts are digging their heels in and trying to make sure that if they don't extend Jonathan Taylor or trade him, which owner Jim Irsay says they don't plan on doing, he will suit up in 2023. Now, this is where things get complicated because the only leverage Taylor has is I'm just not going to play. It is not necessarily holding out. The trend now is to hold in, where you're not fined because you're physically there, as you saw. He's there, okay? He's there. But he's not suiting up. He's not participating. He's just kind of there, okay? And now we have other vids of more evidence of him just chilling. He's not really, he's just in the mix. Him right here, just observing. This is where we're at now when it comes to this. Jonathan Taylor is holding in. If he holds out, if he were to stay at home and play the crib, because of the new CBA, he would be able to get fined. But now, because he could show up, participate, dress, but not play, this is his own way of like a sit-in. This is a sit-in, essentially. So this is where we're at now, where Jonathan Taylor's there, but he wants his money. So where does that leave us? Jonathan Taylor has requested a trade. And then this is Jim Irsay's response to the media after the trade demand became public. If I die tonight and Jonathan Taylor is out the league, no one's going to miss us. The league goes on. And that brings us to Jim Irsay's truth. Okay? Jim Irsay's truth. This man says the quiet stuff out loud all the time. Sometimes it's a breath of fresh air, and sometimes it's this, where it's a stark reality that's hella problematic, yet there is an ounce of truth here. Because if Jim Irsay were to die tonight, no one's going to miss him. No one. I mean, he inherited the team from his daddy. And the only thing that has become good from it is the fact that they lucked in and were able to win the Peyton Manning sweepstakes. Jim Irsay has not done that much as the leader, as the head of the Colts franchise. So that part is true. Now, Jonathan Taylor out the league, no one's going to miss us. That's the problem, because that's not true. We're all going to miss him in fantasy. If you have a top 5 pick, you're going to miss Jonathan Taylor being available to be drafted in fantasy. You're going to miss him. You're going to miss him for parlays. You're going to miss him just when watching Red Zone. Jonathan Taylor will be missed more just by being out the league than if Jim Irsay were to die tonight. So let's look at this quote and examine it for what it is. If I die tonight and Jonathan Taylor's out the league, no one's going to miss us. He's half right. Okay? He's half right. And now, more information that's been leaked after this trade request from Jonathan Taylor. More Jim Irsay quotes. We're not trading Jonathan. End of discussion. Not now and not in October. Now, we are on the cusp of August and September. So why he said not now at the end of July and not in October, I don't know why. Maybe someone smarter than me can explain that one to me. But when it comes to the trade, they don't want to extend Jonathan Taylor. And they're not going to trade him. So by doing all of this, by not paying him, by putting him on the non-football injury list, then that would be the last resort for your man Jonathan Taylor. Either he sits out a year and doesn't get paid, and then we run this back all again from scratch next year, or he suits up to get the service year in and be 1 year closer to potentially getting out of this deal. But let's get to the James Boyd article. This is where the timeline began. Back in February, when they introduced their new coach, it was a lot of words here, but the focal point of the speech in the introductory press conference included Jonathan Taylor, as you would imagine, because as you see here, since entering the league in 2020, Taylor ranks 4th in the entire league with over 3,800 rushing yards and is tied for third with 33 rushing touchdowns. Okay? Now that's in February. We come now to March at the NFL owners meeting. You want Jonathan Taylor back 100%. Jonathan is special. That's Jim Irsay saying that. So again, in March, you want Jonathan Taylor back 100%. Jonathan is special. July, if he's out the league, nobody's going to miss him. What happened between March 27th and July 29th? Because if we're looking at it here, and this referenced the Miles Sanders deal, which was the biggest, and we use that in quotations, the biggest running back free agent contract of the offseason, 4 years, $25.4 million, which if you do the math, that's not a lot of money. And how much that is even guaranteed, like, come on. So now the thing that they're starting to use against Jonathan Taylor is what's mentioned here at the end. He missed 6 games last season. And according to this, they're saying this is the first game he's ever missed due to injury in his life. Okay? So he missed 6 games. So we have a team that underperformed, in large part due to the fact that Jonathan Taylor, their best player, missed 6 games. But we have that on top of the notion of this team underachieved. They went through a new coach. They went through 2 coaches last year. You know, they went through the whole thing with Jeff Saturday. It was a disaster, okay? So this team has a lot to fix. They have a young stud QB in AR, Anthony Richardson. And he's walking in here and he's thinking, all right, I got Pittman and I got Jonathan Taylor. They got Nelson on the line. All right, this is a really good situation. Well, what if I take away Jonathan Taylor from that situation? Those RPOs ain't going to hit the same, okay? Those QB bootlegs ain't going to hit the same. Those screenplays ain't going to hit the same. It's a huge difference, okay? And as you see here, the Colts are 13-1-1 when Taylor rushes for at least 100 yards. 13-1-1, as opposed to 9-19 when he fails to reach triple digits. It's a pretty clear case for how much of a factor Jonathan Taylor is to the success of the Indianapolis Colts. But yet, here we are, where your man's Jim Irsay, after having a private one-on-one meeting with Jonathan Taylor on the team bus or on his bus at training camp, saying, I could die tonight and Jonathan Taylor could be out the league and no one's going to miss us. How did we get here? Now, in April, Jonathan Taylor tried to speak things into existence and tried to say the things that you're supposed to say when you're trying to get the bag from your employer. It wouldn't be a distraction to me, in parentheses, if I did get an extension before the season. I'm under contract here for 4 years. I put the pen to paper, so that's where I'm at right now. I made an obligation to them, and they made an obligation to me, but things will happen naturally. Like I said, it's not until you get into the situation where it's like, oh, okay, let's see how you handle this situation, because you always see it, but you never know. What do you guys actually go through? Okay, so in other words, he tried to toe the line. He tried to say the right thing to make sure I'm not going to say anything to mess up my potential bag. Cool, got it. Now, Irsay on the final day of the draft. Jonathan Taylor coming back is a huge plus because of that double threat of their speed. Now talking about him and Anthony Richardson and their unprecedented athleticism. Both of them are unprecedented players at the position. Both of them are unprecedented players at the position in terms of size, speed, and what they can do. Unprecedented players. But in actuality, Jim Irsay is now saying, if Jonathan Taylor is out the league tonight, no one's going to miss him. So which truth is it? Was he speaking his truth on April 29th? Or was he speaking his truth this past weekend, July 29th? I'm starting to believe Jim Irsay, and if you know his movies, you know why he got pulled over. You know why he was suspended a few years ago. It ain't nothing but a Google search away. Cocaine, pills, and a briefcase full of cash on a DUI. It's all there. Okay? So April 29th, you're saying Jonathan Taylor is unprecedented. July 29th, you're saying he could be out the league and no one would miss him. Which one is it, Jim? I kind of leaning towards July 29th. That was your truth. That was Jim Irsay's truth. Dre pulling up was good, Dre. Jonathan Taylor better learn how to box and go pro to go fight Spence or Crawford. Both of them got paid $40 million for that fight on Saturday. Yeah. I mean, look, I think, I hope Errol Spence takes some time off. That's all I'll say. I hope Errol takes some time off to get his head right, literally. There's been a lot of conspiracy theory stuff on the timeline. There's been a lot of stuff in group chats thrown around. I'll just say, for someone who watched Errol Spence before the accident and has watched him post-accident, it's a clear difference that there are now two Errol Spences, pre-accident and post. Unfortunately, we got the post-Errol Spence against Bud Crawford instead of pre-accident. I think pre-accident Errol Spence probably would have gave Bud that work, or at least would have made it a tougher fight. Way harder than what we saw this past Saturday night, which was a dismantling of what's left of Errol Spence. But yeah, Jonathan Taylor, this isn't going to work. This model is not going to work. And I thought we were on the verge of something when we had those running backs pulling up on the Zoom. I thought we were on the verge of having something pivotal when we got the RB only Zoom. Now, do I think they should have their own separate wing underneath the NFLPA and they be able to negotiate separate from players? No, that's asinine. You don't do that. That separates the base. As someone that was a former, shop steward at my union, that is an asinine thing. You cannot have that. The whole thing of having a union is that it protects all of us. It can't be just a union for particular groups. To be quite honest with you, that's one of my issues with the union that's often used in media. You have SAG-AFTRA, you have the Directors Guild, the Producers Guild. There should be a whole umbrella that covers all of the people that are within this industry of media. Yet it's sectioned off, and that's why you have SAG and they're fighting. Then, well, all right, well, the PGA, the Producers Guild, and the DGA, the Directors Guild, well, our contracts aren't up, but we'll show support. Like, they don't have to do that. That's the only way that you can really empower the SAG strike, is by having these other sectioned off unionized groups come join you. It shouldn't be that way. It should just be an umbrella where all of the people within media, within movie, TV, film, streaming, whatever you do, should be all under the same umbrella, because that's where the power lies. That's where the power lies. And I think they learned that. They should change that system, but it is what it is. But yeah, the R&B, the running backs, now the next CBA isn't for 7 years? So there's nothing they could do per se. But I'll tell you this, if they can band together, I'm not saying a strike, but something needs to happen in mass. The only way to get out from the trappings of the current NFL CBA is to have something happen in mass to show a strength. One, to show the strength of your power, and two, to show a sign of unity. And that's my problem with this Netflix quarterback show, because it just continues to show the haves and the have-nots. Quarterbacks are the haves, and literally every other position of the are the have-nots. And that's why we're here. That's why there's the problem. The wage gap between quarterbacks, and I had a video, I jumped on here last week, when it came to Justin Herbert in his contract, and I was trying to get into it, and I've had some people in the comments, question that. I'm just like, well, I don't know how else you can see it. If we keep highlighting one position overall, then yes, the wage gap is going to continue to be hella problematic, and you're never going to get a quarterback that's going to hold out, go on strike, whatever, because they're paid, they're good. Like, it was very pivotal, the last strike lockout that the NFL had, that the QBs had to stand up. And not all of them were trying to stand up. You could go back and look that up. Not all the QBs were out there on the front lines really talking that talk, because they were paid and they were good. But that wage gap has continued to where now Justin Herbert's out here, what, $52.5 million? Joe Burrow's next, Trevor Lawrence after him, and then between them two, maybe Mahomes finally gets his deal done correctly. It's just going to continue pushing the numbers up, whereas your running backs, you can argue who the best running back is, but the best running back with the funny money included is getting $16 million. And that's with funny money. That's not guaranteed money. Whereas we have QBs, Kyler Murray, 45. Now we got Justin Herbert, 52.5. Burrow's probably going to get 53 to 55. Trevor Lawrence probably going to be 55, 57. Then whenever Mahomes and his agent finally figures it out, they're probably going to bang him for 60. Meanwhile, you're going to have running backs scratching and clawing to get 12 mil. And while you can tell me, well, Sam, the running backs aren't as important, you can find a running back in the 5th round. Like, yes, you can find a serviceable, pretty good running back in the 5th round. Would you want a serviceable running back in the 5th round or Christian McCaffrey? Would you want a good, solid, would you want Algiers or Bijan Robinson? The Falcons just showed you the difference. We have Cordell Patterson and we got Algiers. They're both good running backs. Holy shit, that's Bijan Robinson. You know what we're going to do? We're going to take Bijan Robinson. It just got proven to you in the draft. The Lions went out there. They had Swift. They could have hung on to Swift. They had Jamal Williams. They could have hung on to him. Think, you know what? We want Gibbs. We're going to go down to Bama and go get Gibbs. So as much as you keep telling me about, the random 4th and 5th rounder that pans out and can be serviceable, we're talking about elite special players. In the words of Jim Irsay, unprecedented players at that position. There is still a difference. You can find a 4th, 5th round wide receiver. You can. If you look hard enough and your scout team is good enough and your evaluators are strong, you can do it. But you want that or Zay Flowers? Come on, man. Dre in the house. What do you think running backs can do to change their situation? I mean, I really think they need to get their brothers in arms to align with them. I think that's the only way. You can't separate from your base. You can't separate from your union, right? Can't do that. If you can't get the QBs who make all the money on board, then you have no chance. The quarterbacks have to align with you. They make the real money. They shift the needle. If the QBs walk out and say, until you take care of our running backs, we standing down with them, then you'll get some movement. The problem is, how many of these QBs you think are really about that action? We learned how few of them were years ago when the last lockout happened. But now we've got a whole new crop of QBs. But unfortunately, they're towing a lot of the same lines that regime, that generation of QBs followed as well. I mean, you see it in the contract structure. Patrick Mahomes had a chance to break the bank and get a lot of guaranteed money. And he took a lot of down the line money by signing a 10-year. He talks about it in the Netflix doc, in the quarterback series. Last year, he's talking in 2022, he's talking about that contract when they had the episode of him, building a house. He's like, yeah, we bought this property when I signed my deals because I'm going to have 10 years, on this deal, and adding in the extra 2 that he got during the pandemic. He's like, yeah, for the next 12 years, I'm here. Imagine that sentiment. Now, I understand. He said, yeah, guys, I want to be here. I want to be a Chief. That's great. No one's saying don't be a Chief for the rest of your career. I'm saying, why would you sign away so many years when you haven't even hit your peak yet? Running backs peak at 25 and under. 26 if you want to be generous and under. Patrick Mahomes, in theory, hasn't hit his peak yet. And he's already given his peak and the back end of that peak in perpetuity in advance to the Kansas City Chiefs at a diminished value. 10 years, $450 million. That's only $45 million a year. Everybody and their mama is going to be making way more money than that by the time he gets around to making 50 plus M's at the back end of that deal. So until we get QBs of this generation to understand their leverage and power, there's no other show. The NBA can't do a show called Center. They can't do a show called Point Guard. It's not going to work. MLB can't do a show called Center Field, called Catcher or Pitcher. It's not going to work. Only in that sport, at that position, can a show like that work. So it's going to take that group to band together and fight for those that are beneath them. And right now, the most undervalued position that is almost as vital to their success is the running backs. The O-linemen get paid. You saw what the Giants just gave, what was that, Thomas, right? The Giants just paid their O-line. Now, the Cowboys are being funny money. They're trying to play hardball when it comes to Zach Martin, but most teams know you got to pay your O-line because your O-line protects the QB, the quarterback, the most important position on the field, the most important position of all of sports. They kept banging that drum during the Netflix doc. Thanks, Peyton in Omaha. But O-linemen also open holes for running backs. That means running backs are kind of important too, especially when you have a top tier one. Especially when you have a unprecedented one. But it's not happening. Dre, while in soccer, Mbappe got offered $700 million for a year to play. Like, let's be clear. $776 million, okay? 776 M's for one season. And he had the ability to say no. You know how much bread you gotta know you got coming to say no to 776 for 1 year? Like, Tiger allegedly turned down a billy, but that was gonna be for a few years with Live Golf. Okay, it was basically just a signing bonus. You get all this money up front, and then you're just here for a couple of years. Now, in essence, it still would have only been 1 year because the PGA folded. But I mean, he would have had to play a few years if it would have lasted that long for the PGA Tour to fold. But Mbappe guaranteed just 1 year. 776 M's. And he has the strength to say no. Amazing. Amazing. This Jonathan Taylor stuff is absolutely insane. I feel for the running backs, man. When you're looking at Zeke not having a gig, Dalvin Cook not having a gig, Tony Pollard on the tag, Josh Jacobs led the league in rushing. He's on the tag. I don't think he showed up yet. Josh Jacobs still hasn't showed up yet, right? I think he's the only tagged running back that hasn't reported yet. Or maybe he's holding in. I don't know if he's holding out or if he's holding in. Not sure. I'll look that up. So, All right, so now we have, who's this, Chris Ballard? Let me make sure. Yeah, Chris Ballard, right? Let's jump to July 25th. So that's last week, right? We could go to June. Yeah, let's go. I mean, y'all can see that here. So things shifted in June, though. So you know what? I won't skip that. Quote from Jonathan Taylor. A lot of positions do a lot for their team, but specifically speaking for the running back position, I can just speak firsthand. We do a lot. You just want to be treated fairly. So, okay, the language has shifted. Okay. From April 19th, when Jonathan Taylor's saying all the right things, not to screw up what he feels is potential ongoing negotiations, to now June 14th, when he's saying you just want to be treated fairly. Guess what, Jonathan? You picked the wrong sport to be treated fairly in. You should have been a QB, bro. That's the only position that gets treated fairly. It's absolutely, positively the only position in that sport, in that league specifically, that gets treated fairly. Unless you're Kaepernick. Or Lamar. Just seeing guys fight, you just think things work out for them. You see guys request trades, they just want to feel valued by not only their coaches, their teammates, but the organization as well. So again, he's trying to say all the right things and all that stuff, but yeah. But we got Dalvin Cook get cut. We talked about that. Saquon losing the battle. Yeah, all this stuff, we've been on top of all of this. And it's just been horrific. And now we have Chris Ballard talking about the cratering running back market. The market is what the market is. But saying that, like I've always told y'all, you pay good players. You pay good players. You pay guys that are going to help you win regardless of the position. We think very highly of Jonathan. Unfortunately, we didn't have a great season as a team, and he's coming off injury. But Jonathan is a great player, and he's a great person. So I think that will play out over time and work out the way it should either way. Now, I think the narrative is that they're trying to sneak in that we're not going to pay him because he's coming off injury. When again, earlier in this article, it said that was literally the first time he's missed a game because of injury in his life. Okay. And then we have Jim Irsay's comments about, we have negotiated a CBA that took years of effort and hard work and compromise in good faith by both sides. That's an absolute lie, and we all know that, okay? We know that this is just an absolute lie. The compromise has been always greater on the players than the owners. To say now that a specific player category wants another negotiation after the fact is inappropriate. Now, while I feel the word inappropriate is not accurate here, I do agree you cannot separate yourself. Because if that's the case, the quarterbacks could go have their own union and box all of y'all out. And y'all ain't going to get no money. Y'all ain't going to get no money. The quarterbacks decide, yo, dogs, I'm going to leave them running backs, them DBs, them linebackers. Let's leave all of them and we know what we doing over here. We all just keep copying and pasting the same contract and keep, getting this bag. We just going to go off and do our own thing. If they do that, the sport, the negotiating power for the other positions will crumble. Absolutely crumble and crater if that were to ever happen, okay? So they need to be careful here because that they know in those offices, oh, y'all trying to bring the running backs at their own group? Well, let's go ahead and get the QBs on the Zoom. Let's go get the Jim Irsay will set that up his damn self. He will set that Zoom up himself and say, let's get the QBs on the Zoom and say, hey, you look what these running backs doing? Aren't they ungrateful? I mean, they should be lucky to be in the same union as you. You're giving them all this revenue. If you guys separated and did it on your own, you would get so much more of the revenue. Don't let A-Rod hear that. Don't let Kirk Cousins hear that. Don't let Russell Wilson hear that. Don't let Dak Prescott hear that. Y'all know how they move. Running backs need to be very careful where they can overplay their hand. Because if the QBs will ever to line up and do their own union, it's curtains for every other position in terms of getting the bag. Ain't none of y'all ain't going. Who tunes in to watch a D lineman? Who tunes in to watch Zach Martin? Jerry Jones would have a field day. If he knew he had Dak on a whole nother CBA agreement, he could treat Zach Martin like dirt. He could treat, Micah Parsons when his turn, he could treat him like dirt. Diggs, all of them, like dirt. So be careful, running backs. Because if them QBs band together, it's curtains. All right, let's see what Dre's talking about. Wonder in Africa and the Black Caribbean countries, most of them brothers have soccer. Most of them play soccer or basketball. That's where the money is at, not the NFL, especially if you're a running back. Look, soccer is the most popular sport in the world. The only American football, it's the reason why it's called American football. American football is only big here in America. There's many games that they keep trying to give to London and to Scotland or some shit, Ireland or whatever. Like that shit don't fly. Like that is the NFL. American football is just that. It is America's version of football, and it is extremely popular here, but not worldwide. So yeah, if you're in the islands, if you're in Africa, if you're in any country with melanin, if you're on any continent with primarily melanin, yeah, you don't give a damn about no NFL. You don't. It's the largest country here. That shit don't fly at all overseas. I've been in Dubai during the NFL season and I had to explain why I'm up at like 9 p.m. watching a 1 p.m. NFL game. Yeah, so that's happened. Dre, how do you think this running back situation will affect the grassroots and youth level football? That's interesting. So no one should be training their son to be a running back, right? Now, that just may happen to be your son's best position. The theory there for me would be you gotta have him be like a Deebo Samuel or Cordero Patterson, although that was a little bit of a stretch. But I would think you need to make your son a weapon instead of just lockstep. You are a running back. You could be Deebo. You can line up in the backfield and cook. You can line up out wide and do a go route. You could do a 9 route, and you could catch a halfback sweep and take it to the house. I think you need to train your child. Now, somebody's got to play the position. Somebody has to play the position, right? But if you're a elite athlete, I think you need to be multi-talented. You're going to have to learn to play multiple positions. You cannot just depend on running back. Now, as you get older, these coaches, they put you at wherever they think you can best fit their team. They don't necessarily care about your future as a professional football player. They need you to get W's for them at whatever level you're at with them, right? But if you train yourself up to have the skill set to be flexible, once you get to that combine, now you're at the receiver combine day, you're at the running back combine day. You're at the athlete. You're just an athlete. I'm here. I'm just nice. Get the ball in my hands and let me cook. I could be Kadarius Toney. I could be Deebo Samuel. Like, I think that's the route. If you have a child that's in youth football, multi-level, multi-positional player, have to be. You cannot depend on running back. What if the wide receivers band together? You can't just replace a great receiver, and the running back contracts are increasing also. I think that's what's made this whole thing problematic in the first place, Dre. I think that's what has set this whole thing off, because I came on here a couple of months ago. It was talking about how Corey Davis is making more money than Saquon Barkley. All these guys that were going to be on the franchise tag, Josh Jacobs, Tony Pollard, Saquon Barkley, Corey Davis is making similar money to them. And that's where I was like, how does this happen? How does this work? How are we at the point where We close that out and see how I get spot track up. And see if we get that right. Come on now. Spot track. Let's see if we get spot track up. But we got the, do about position. Position, contracts, by position. There we go. Give it a second. It's not the fastest website in the world. There we go. We're going to go running back. Update. It's not the fastest website. There we go. So this is value. And then we have adjusted value, but we need the guaranteed money, right? So you have highest is McCaffrey, right? 16 mil. Oh, sorry. Let's get this right. Kamara has the most value, but that's just because he got an extra year, right? So when it comes to adjusted annual value, which includes the funny money, McCaffrey's getting the most at 16 mil. But we've looked up this contract. That's not all guaranteed, right? So Derrick Henry's getting 12 mil a year. Nick Chubb is getting 12.2. Derrick Henry's getting 12 and a half. Chubb's getting 12.2. Aaron Jones 12. Tony Pollard is locked in at the CDM. All three together. All three are locked in at that franchise tag number. Even with Saquon running and taking whatever the Giants gave him, he ain't making no extra bread. It's literally no extra money. He got $2 million up front just to sign. But that $2 million comes out of that $10 million. And then he has the $900,000 on the back end that could push it. If you add that up, if you round up and add that up, it gets to $11 million. And then we talked about the Miles Sanders deal. Let's see how much of this is guaranteed. 13 mil? How much of this is guaranteed? Let's see this Miles Sanders contract real quick. And you see Austin Eckler's all the way down here, dogs. You see where Austin Eckler's at? He signed a 4-year, $25 million deal, and only half of it is guaranteed. $13 million of the 25 is guaranteed. And this is a 4-year deal. There's a potential opt-out after 2 years, okay? So in essence, it's 2 years for 13 mil because he could get out after 2 years, right? But that's where it's problematic because even the 2 years for 13, that's only what, 6.5? So that's not a great contract. But what if you're Miles Sanders? Clearly the Eagles are moving on. But that's where he's at with it. These are not great contracts. But the fact of the matter is that y'all saw, and goddamn, this website is so slow. I really despise this website. I love it, but I hate it because it's so damn slow. All right, contracts by position. Now we'll do wide receivers whenever the website decides to load. Goodness. It's a good ass tea though. Goji berry tea. Update. So now you just saw. All right, so just the numbers already jump off the page, right? We got $140 off rip with Devonta Adams, Tyreek Hill 120, AJ Brown 100. Now again, this includes funny money. Okay? So look where I'm going. Let's go. Where's Corey Davis? Where he at? Corey Davis, right? Let's go here. Now, he's got some funny money on his contract, but let's just go here. Now, remember, Saquon, Josh Jacobs, and Tony Pollard are making $10.09 million. Okay, so just under 10.1. If we do it by adjusted annual value, this is 12 mil. This is 14 mil. And he's making 13 mil next year. This is Corey Davis. He signed a 3-year, $37.5 contract with the Jets. His annual average salary with the funny money is $12.5. Saquon, Josh Jacobs, and Tony Pollard on the franchise tag which is the adjusted salary of the top 5 salaries, is only getting a hair under $10.1 million. And Corey Davis, and salute to him. I ain't trying to take no bread out of his pocket. I'm just saying, if I'm Saquon, Josh Jacobs, and Tony Pollard, I'm looking at this with the side eye. How's Corey Davis out here making 12 and a half, even with the funny money? And I'm Saquon, and I can only get an extra $900K in incentives from the Giants. It's crazy, bro. It is crazy. So when it comes to, what you're saying, Dre, about what if the wide receivers jump in, if I'm the wide receivers, I ain't trying to mess this up. And that's why this whole thing is splintered in the first place. Quarterbacks are making the bread. Now we have receivers that are out here, top tier receivers, and even some that are not top tier. Corey Davis is not a top tier receiver. And Corey Davis is making $12.5 million, while Saquon, who's a top 5 running back, Josh Jacobs led the league in rushing last year, and Tony Pollard is supposed to be playing running back for America's team, allegedly, and they're all looking up to Corey Davis. Boogie down in the house. You hear that Dobbins is holding out? No, I did not hear that. That's hilarious. Ain't he still on his rookie deal? Let's see his contract. I'm sure it's just the rookies, the wage scale with the rookies, right? Yeah, he's on a rookie deal. Oh, he's on the last year of it. I didn't realize he was in the league this long. Last year of his rookie deal. Oh, he's getting tagged. He's getting tagged. I wouldn't worry about it. He's getting tagged. Boogie down, these running backs will learn the hard way. Yeah, unfortunately, if they don't band together and if they don't get, quarterbacks, receivers, and whoever else who makes money in this league to ride with them, yeah. Like I said earlier, ain't gonna be no Netflix show called Safety. Ain't gonna be no Netflix show called Defensive Tackle. It just ain't. So, yeah. Quarterbacks hold all the power in this league. So unless the QBs do something, these owners, these broadcast partners, they ain't going to give a shit. Dobbins is going to get tagged. I can't see. I mean, again, and this is not a big number anyway. What pick was he? Second round pick. Yeah. Yeah, he's on that Jalen Hurts. Like, he's got to ball out to cash out. So he needs to show up and learn this new offense under Monken so he could cash out, because there will be opportunities for him in this offense. But as Boogie Down points out, he has been injured. He has always been injured. So he needs to just show up. He needs to be the last person holding out, because ain't no way. You see, dog, you just saw what they did to Lamar. Like, how can JK actually think he could be in a position of power to leverage a new deal? You literally just sat and watched what they did to the franchise player in Lamar Jackson. You saw how they played hardball with him and got, in my opinion, allegedly collusion with the rest of the league to hold him down. You think now you could pull up and get a bag? Bruh. What's that shit your baby smoking? Like, I don't understand what's up with Playboy like that, but that's kind of wild. That is absolutely, positively wild that he's trying to hold out. Like, that's crazy. Like, he needs to be on that Jonathan Taylor. He needs to show up. Hold in. You can hold in. Don't hold out. Hold in. Because that's crazy to me. You just saw what they did with Lamar. Look it down. Dobbins too big-headed. He thinks he's as valuable as Lamar. Then that's crazy. Then you're right. Then your earlier comment is right. He gonna learn the hard way. If he thinks he's on that type of time. Now, if he was big-headed after this year, like if he kills shit and the Ravens have success as we assume they're going to have now that Lamar actually has weapons, him being one of them, then I could be like, all right, well, I can see him in his bag talking his shit because now he's a free agent. But, dog, you're a second-round pick. You don't have any leverage. Now, this is a person who has no leverage. You're oft injured. You're a second-round pick, so they're not obligated. You're not even the best ball carrier on the team. We can argue Lamar is a better ball carrier than you are. So, I mean, nah, dogs. You're not even the best running back on the team, bro. Like, nah, dogs. Nope. I don't want to hear that from no J.K. Dobbins. That's crazy, though. That's crazy. So, if you pulled up late, always feel free to go back and hit the rewind or catch the replay. But we tapped in heavy to the Jonathan Taylor stuff. He's talking about he's never had back pain. He's never reported having back pain. So he's not sure who these, quote, sources are, but he wants the Colts to find new ones. Here's the interesting thing, though, with Jonathan Taylor holding in, not holding out, holding in, showing up, but not participating, he gets to avoid getting fined, okay? So that's the new workaround for being able to show up for work and not really work, but still get paid. So he's holding in, okay? And you see him here. You tell me, does this walk look like someone who has a healthy back? I'll let y'all be the judge of it. That looks like a pretty interesting gait. Now, that could just be, wear and tear, or just football. That could just be footballing, right? That could just be the walk of a football player, and especially a bell cow running back like Jonathan Taylor, right? That could just be the walk of someone who's been carrying the ball hundreds of times, probably since Pop Warner, okay? That could just be the walk. But this all stems from, allegedly, the Colts are saying Jonathan Taylor pulled up to camp and had a back injury. They're saying that he told them he had a back injury. He's saying that never happened. He does not have a back injury, okay? But now it's coming to the point where there was allegedly negotiations going on for a new contract. He's insinuating that they were. The Colts are saying, we had no discussions with you about extending your contract. So again, there's a lot of rift here between the Colts saying one thing and Jonathan Taylor saying another. But now, after a meeting with Jim Irsay on the Irsay bus outside of the training camp facility over the weekend, now Jonathan Taylor is trying to leverage whatever little player empowerment he has in the National Football League at one of the most devalued positions in all of sports and saying, I want to trade. And Jim Irsay is like, I don't care that you want to trade. I am not trading you. I'm not going to trade you now, and I'm not going to trade you in October. Okay? And it's just a lot of he said. And if you look at the article by our guy James Boyd of The Athletic, he's been all over this. He's been all over this stuff for The Athletic. He is at Colts training camp, and he's got this timeline talking about every single thing that's been going on since February. Since February to this past weekend. So I would encourage y'all to pull up and check out the replay because we really got hardcore into the shit, and it was a really, really cool breakdown. So tap in on that. One last thing before I slide on up out of here. As you know, we're ramping Timeline T back up. Took a few weeks off to kind of recharge, refresh the batteries, alter some things with the stream and the channel and whatnot, but we're still growing, so I appreciate people that come in and subscribe. The last thing we're going to attack is there's a new Big Three. I don't know if y'all are aware. There is a new Big Three. Let's see, where are we at? Well, that's Jim Irsay's pops, Robert Irsay. You can look that up. Mark Jackson told me he was let go by ESPN. This is courtesy of Peter Vesey, longtime New York Post columnist, one of the guys that I used to read back in the days when I was a youngin', reading back when newspapers were still a thing. He had 2 years left on his contract. Jeff Van Gundy was let go weeks ago. Doc Rivers and Doris Burke are now Mike Breen's partners. So you read that correctly. The new Big Three is Mike Breen, Doc Rivers, endorse Burke for ESPN's NBA coverage. That will now be the A team. So they'll be doing the NBA Finals. No longer will it be Jeff Van Gundy and Mark Jackson. Now, Mark Jackson was thought to be initially jettisoned to the B team or off the network, but it looks as though, according to Peter Vesey, who is really close with Mark Jackson, because Vesey he is a legend here in New York, especially on the basketball scene. So he's got ties with Mark Jackson going back to when Mark was hooping in high school and definitely at St. John. So he's tapped in. Vesey, even though he's not directly affiliated with a publication, he's still tapped in. He's still got real life sources. So if he says Mark Jackson told me, I believe it. So Mark Jackson no longer with the 4-letter network, no longer with ESPN. Your new team for the NBA Finals next year will be Doc Rivers and Doris Burke joining Mike Breen. I have thoughts. I will save those thoughts for the new edition of the CMD podcast that will be dropping later on this week. So tap in and subscribe. Link to that is in the description. Or if you just want to catch the visuals of the CMD podcast, you can lock in on this here YouTube channel by subscribing. But yeah, I definitely have some thoughts. So I think we'll wrap it up there. Quick little hour. Glad I was able to pull up and tap in. Definitely catch the replay if you have it. Building the channel back up, continuing to build. Next big milestone will be 500 subscribers, so looking forward to crossing that. Any help you can do to help get us to 500, I would greatly appreciate that. Yeah, I will be back tomorrow, maybe Wednesday, depends on how things shape out. Gonna be, slowly ramping up. This is my training camp too. It's training camp editions of Timeline T. But as you see here on the scroll, there will be some NFL division previews. Those will be starting next week. Okay, we're gonna try to have some guests on, shake things up, kind of give you a different perspective. Won't just be me spewing and y'all listening. There's some other people who have some insights as well, working on that behind the scenes. But I think we have some pretty good people lined up, so I'm looking forward to that. I will be chopping up probably a clip or two from this to put on the YouTube channel for those who, the live thing isn't their thing. They can always just check out the clip. So we'll be doing that. So appreciate y'all pulling up. Appreciate those who were able to tap in. If you have not subscribed, feel free to do so. If you have not hit the like button, do your boy a favor and do that, because the algorithm likes that. Therefore, I like it. So for the CMD, this has been Timeline T. I'll see y'all very soon. Peace.